and welcome to the Steps to Happiness show on Soulivity TV. I'm your host, Teresa Greco, happiness coach, author, editor, writer, educator, and Reiki master. Are you ready to follow your joy and tap into your inner happiness? Then the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, my guests and I explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices that can help lead you back to the happiness within you. The happiness principle for today's show is remembering who we really are. When we are born into this world, we are love, peace, and happiness. We see these innate qualities in young children. They embody love, peace, and happiness. But the world very slowly leads us away from our innate nature and has us feeling a whole host of other emotions, often what we feel as negative emotions. The world also slowly has us behaving in ways that don't reflect the love that we are and believing things about ourselves that aren't true. We become molded by our external world, society, culture, religion, family, and friends as early as 5 years old. Soon the voice of the ego begins telling you who you need to be and how you need to behave in order for those around you to love you and keep you safe. Over time, the external world and its opinions become ingrained beliefs in ourselves, and the ego's voice is what we hear the loudest. My ego's voice relentlessly told me, you need to improve. You need to be skinnier and prettier. You need someone to complete you because if you're alone, you're less than whole. If you don't live up to the expectations of others, you won't be loved or revered. You need to have more university degrees, more work experience, because as a woman, you need options. And it went on and on. The desire to improve, do more, and be better than who I was became the Teresa who felt incomplete, insufficient, and imperfect. I always felt that I needed to be more than who I was. I was never enough and not wholly lovable. So, how do we bring ourselves back to the understanding that we are whole, healed, and complete? How do we return to the love, peace, and happiness we were as children and is always within us at our core to connect with and nurture? Today's show is all about answering those questions. I'm going to take a short break and I'll introduce my next guest when we come back.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Welcome back. Let me introduce my guest for today's show. She's an ordained minister, registered massage therapist, death doula, yoga teacher, holistic nutritionist, and medicine woman whose mission is to assist us all in rediscovering and embodying our power and birthright to be bold, empowered, resilient, and free. Ramona, Astrid, Bernardi, hello and welcome to the show.
Oh my good, thank you so much for having me. And can we just start off by saying you look amazing? I'm thrilled to be here, and your introduction is like the perfect place for us to start. Thank you.
So, why don't we then start off by you telling us a little bit about you that brought you to this amazing mission?
Yeah. So I'm very inspired by your words in the intro because that's how I was conditioned. So I was a workaholic. I was a registered massage therapist as I had been studying alternative health and wellness, including Reiki and energy medicines, as well as these evidence based transformative psychological empowerment. And I've been studying this for over 20 years. In my career as a full time R.M.T, I'm going to use these words very conscientiously. I was a slave to what my ego was telling me was what I needed to respond appropriate needs, where I literally had no boundaries with the world. And so it just accumulated and accumulated within my body. Finally, in 2016, I had a moment of lucidity where I was ready to change my life, just have a total, I just needed to let go. I realized that I was creating insanity in my life. And so I decided I was going to create a mission for myself. I was going to go to Costa Rica for 3 months, study my yoga teacher's training and collaborative and sustainable culture and permaculture, and bring that back to Toronto and really set up a community that way. I really was so inspired by this. However, the universe had another plan for me. So as soon as I got there, unfortunately, and this is not about Costa Rica, I want to emphasize that always, this was my lesson to learn. I developed meningitis when I was there and I became medically grounded. I lost my hearing, and it was the most harrowing journey I've ever been through. It forced me to reckon with what was really, truly mine. And as you know, since I've been studying alternative health and wellness for so long, that everywhere I went, and no matter where I went, holistic to allopathic medicine and everywhere in between, the answer that kept coming through to me was, you have to live with this. Essentially, I was given a death sentence. And, the brain injury that I sustained as a result of it was going to be a permanent part of my world, which it is. But I am now at this point of thriving, and I couldn't be more happy. And I'm so thrilled and ready to discuss this because the truth is, my hearing was taken so that I could move into the deepest listening. And that comes from the miracle of our body. And so, how about we start there?
Thank you so much. Now,
Hmm.
today's episode is about remembering who we really are. So, even if our body does go through changes, let's say, and I believe it is the vessel that carries our spirit, our soul with us, that we have this particular lifetime that we've born into, and also born into it with an amnesia in the sense that we don't remember any of the past lifetimes that we've had. And that is really on purpose because it provides us this blank slate to really experience and dive deep into this lifetime and to learn
Mhm.
the lessons that we came here to learn, and that I believe we decided on all of those lessons before we came, that we have soul contracts with people that are going to help us to learn those lessons. And so my question is to you, who do you believe we really are? That with everything that you've been through thus far and all the work that you're helping other people to do, who do you believe we really are?
I, on many points, I agree with you because I do believe that we are spirits having a human experience. That is the biggest lesson. I also, in a non religious context, though I have respect for all religions, I truly believe we are part of the fabric of the universe, that we are, in fact, droplets of God. And our bodies are vessels of of that type of oneness, that universal experience, that universal wisdom. And it is for me, I'll talk about my journey. It is coming to the remembrance of that and deconditioning ourselves, really, so that we can come back into the truth, the resonance of knowing that we are part of such a greater awareness and a greater capacity than we can possibly imagine.
I'm with you on all of that, in that we're all connected to
Mhm.
that energy, that universe. That even as you were speaking, I just had chills like all through my body, which for me was confirmation that like your experience was also part of my experience, and that everybody around us, that because we're all of the same energy, it we're all experiencing it always together, even if we don't recognize that we're experiencing it together.
I thank you. That's exactly how I feel. And it's interesting because I mean, listen, we're all in this experience of humanity, which is very, it can be challenging, but it's like I'm learning. And what this illness, the brilliance of this challenge in my life has brought me to, is that everybody shows up as a mirror for me to learn, and I'm here as a mirror for them to wake up to something greater. A greater awarenesses are always at our beck and call. And sometimes they show up as challenges, as aches and pains in our bodies, as, frustration within a relationship. You, our children, as you would say, our partners, our work relationships. However, as we become more and more present to what our body is telling us, the feedback of our body, and we learn to really develop the listening skills, then we can really step into the magic of transformation and allowing these challenges to become our greatest teachers. And that's something that really excites me, as you can tell.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And what I loved about what you just said is that our body, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self are always speaking to us, always communicating with us. And so it's important that we understand what that communication is, how our body speaks to us, how does our emotional self speak to us, how does our spiritual self, that often we might call that gut instinct, that intuition, that little voice inside of us, that's always there, also speaking to us, that a lot of times we don't listen to it, but the more that we become familiar with how it communicates with us, the louder that little voice can get. And so something else that you mentioned is that everyday life is really like a roller coaster, that it is a yin and a yang, that you can, the good comes with the bad, there's the sunshine comes also with the rain. Like it's we live in this world of like of opposites of and polarity. And so it's important that even with the roller coaster of life, that with this really terrible experience that you've had, that is now brought you to a different place of understanding and gratitude, is that we need to realign ourselves with the truth of that which we really are, which I believe is love, peace, and happiness. That I believe we are that at our core, although the world very slowly takes us away from that. And the negative things that we feel are there as a clue to say, oh, you're out of alignment, you're off center right now, you're not grounded, that you need to come back
Exactly.
to who you really are, because that is a place of love, peace, and happiness. And so,
Mhm.
as a coach and all the work that you do, I would really love to dive into some of the steps that you are helping people to adopt and practice in their life, that can help them to realign with the truth of who we are. What are some of the things that we can do every day that helps us to come back to ourselves?
Yeah, I thank you. You're so clear and so resonant, and I so appreciate you. This is okay. So, of all the work I've ever done, is always comes back to, am I putting it into practice and am I listening? Um, Very recently, in the last, I would say, 3 years, I've become very much. I'm what. Let me start again. So I have a certification in a particular modality called soul coaching. And what this has helped me do is to bring all of these lessons together. And really, what it is, it's nothing other than coming so back into ourselves that we come back to the sensations of our body. So, what I believe happens is through life, we become numb, essentially. And so, revitalizing our awareness and coming back into the sensations, like really the atmosphere in our skin, the breath, you know, as we start to become more sensitive and more attuned to something so superficial as just, feeling this touch on my skin. And 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 as we practice this, even 5 minutes a day, just what am I feeling right now? What is affecting my sensibility? Is it how is this program that I'm listening to, what am I feeling? What are the sensations that are arising? And every day we condition ourselves to come back into this space, this holy space that is our body. And I believe gently, slowly, and easily over time, we become more attuned to what our body is really responding to. And rather than reacting and becoming almost like mindless reactors, we become mindful responders to what our body really wants, what it really like, remembering that sense of joy. I absolutely agree with you. I think joy is our natural state. And so for me, it's that soul coaching type of activity that brings us into a mindful state. What I've found as I've been speaking about this, that people get quite concerned about, I don't know how to quiet my mind, but really it's not even about that. It's everything is expanding into this present moment. So how present can we become to this very sensation? So, as you were saying, if we're in traffic, if we're at a red light, even it takes no time to just take a moment and go, how am I feeling right now? And
Mhm.
if we're in the middle of a heated exchange, how am I feeling right now? Like little bits of lucidity to bring us back into the moment so that we find our will and our connection to ourselves, to our body, to the person we're in relationship with, the external stimulus that we're in relationship, and feel our authentic responses. And for me, that's the most thrilling part. It's coming back into our own awareness and learning what our truth actually is and living from
Mhm.
that way. Hmm.
I totally agree. Many of us are all living on autopilot. That we
Hmm.
wake up, we get a coffee, we have a breakfast, we drive to work. We don't even know how we got there. You do your work day, you come home, you make dinner, maybe you watch some TV, you go to bed, and you do the same thing over and over and over again. And I think that with the pandemic, it really threw people for a loop in the sense that they're living this life on autopilot, not really thinking about how they're living every day. And before you know it, it's like 5, 10 years, in the future, and you've been doing this and having the same life that without even
Hmm.
really being awake to it. And so I agree with you. Many of us are not tuning in as we should, and it's important that we are constantly checking in with ourselves, that we don't do, right? We allow the world to take us away. Our phones, really, uh,
Yeah.
I for me, it's a dead hole because you can get on there and it's hard to get off, and it's just
Yeah.
eating your time, and you're not even really being aware. Many of us are not mindful as we eat, as we make
Hmm.
our way through the world. Like, even, we're having your coffee, but you're not even really appreciating it. So
Exactly.
I really agree with you that if we are going to remember who we really are, we have to check in with ourselves all the time. What other strategies can you suggest that can help, again, bring us back? So, mindfulness is a big one.
Yeah, mindfulness is for me the number one, coming back to our breath. So the easiest, quickest, and easiest, I'm repeating myself, but the most simple tool we have is our breath. And the more that we just tune in and just, even if there's no awareness, it's just, I feel this warm air coming in and out of my nostrils. It's a moment. It's a moment. But as you were saying this, like I had this image, like we have our coffee, but do you know how good coffee smells? Like, can we really begin to enjoy the simple things? So smell that cup of coffee, take a moment and
Mhm.
taste this water. Like it's delicious. And so one of the biggest tools we have is gratitude. Like, oh my goodness, I agree with you that we've become even more numb as a result of having to sequester ourselves through this pandemic. And so now is a ripe opportunity for us to begin to awaken our senses in these very simple ways, right? Enjoying, like, I love my microphone. It's golden. Like, what a beautiful color. And just appreciating this beautiful color, like the colors behind me, and they make me happy. So honestly, it's not just mindfulness, it's re-engaging our senses. I think at a very, even just a minimal moment, will have positive accumulation over time, truly.
Mhm. I agree. I agree. Gratitude is one of those practices that can immediately connect us to the happiness that science has proven that it's directly correlated with happiness. So the more grateful we are for, and many moments throughout the day, as you said, it's being aware of those simple pleasures that can immediately tap us into that happiness that's inside of us at any moment. I also agree with the breath. It is it is the easiest way to bring us back, that when we're feeling frustrated or angry, that we can take a moment to go, if we need to go to the bathroom stall or go into your car or wherever it is, to just those deep inhales and exhales can bring you back to center really, really quickly. So thank you for that point as well. Any other suggestions that you can think of?
I mean, there's so many. I like, if we were to take it out, okay, first of all, I just need to say there are endless ways. So I think my invitation is to start to really understand what can we look around and really enjoy about our environment. We are infinitely capable of finding the center within. So beginning to, for me, the biggest way that I have learned is to appreciate my internal landscape. So um you know rather than just coming, like, it's, yes, it's our job, but sometimes we need outside intervention. So you said you were a Reiki master. So my goodness, there's so many beautiful souls tapping into their oneness energy and have the availability to share. So I was a body worker for years, getting some touch therapy and allowing yourself to come back through other interventions, planning fun days in, I live in the GTA. There's so many things to participate in, and actually becoming available now as we come out of the pandemic. um Choosing your joy, allowing yourself to realize, hey, I could use some support here, and knowing that there are many ways to achieve that. Taking social media breaks, like phone breaks. I apologize immensely to my community, and they sometimes have a hard time getting hold of me because I do need a day away from my phone, or 2 days, and really allow myself to reset, come back into the body. But I think that
Mhm.
it's important to recognize that we do have community resources, and let's tap into those.
And it is, I believe it is a balance between the external and the internal. That,
Mhm.
we are conditioned to look outside of ourselves. That's part of my story, that we are conditioned to look outside of ourselves for answers, look outside of ourselves for that happiness, look outside for love, looking outside for a lot of different things, that we often don't spend enough time with the internal space. And there is messaging inside there. There is our higher self is inside of there. That what we're really searching for outside of ourselves already exists within us. But many of us don't spend the time that it takes to really become familiar with that internal space and how it can nourish us, how it can love us, how it can bring us peace and joy, how it can give us the answers that we're searching for, all of those things. And so thank you so much for reminding us that it is a balance. Now, if some people feel uncomfortable to go into their internal space, right? That because of trauma, because of things that have happened to them in their past, sometimes it, being quiet and by yourself can be hard for some people. And so I think that those are also clues that, as you said, seeking out those professionals that can help us to overcome some of those things that may be holding us back from really getting to know ourselves.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree. That's exactly how I operate. So for me, I thrive in creating sacred space with people. So yes, it's not the easiest to go in, to begin the process of exploring our inner landscape. So let me start by saying this. There has been nothing more exciting, more nourishing, and more deeply rewarding than turning my spotlight from out to in. And the more that I have allowed myself to awaken inside my body, the more my external environment matches that joy. And so exactly. And so when it comes to creating sacred space with people and creating ceremony, it's delightful. That is actually my greatest service. My greatest service to
Mhm.
others is to journey inside, to create a safe, sacred environment so that people feel comfortable to come into their home. This is our home. And it does. Sometimes it takes support. And so that's, I know I do it. I know my colleagues are doing it. I know yourself. This show is a part of that landscape. So yeah, I'm just so thrilled that we get to talk like this. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for reminding me and us that the more we do go inward and we work on ourselves, the more our external environment starts to reflect that. That when things
Yeah.
are chaotic around us, when our relationships are suffering, when things outside of ourselves are not maybe aligned the way we want them to be, it's because they're not aligned within us. And so we need to do that work. We need to go inside, although it may be hard to do so, because only then will our external world actually reflect all of that. And so our experiences externally are only enhanced when we go inward and we do what we need to do on the inside to bring us back to who we really are. So thank you for that reminder. Now, Ramona, if people would love to connect with you after the show, how can they do that?
Okay, so I love that you're asking this. So I'm just going to be totally, I'm always honest, but I'm going to be totally transparent, which is I just officially retired as a registered massage therapist. So I am still putting the pieces together. By October, I will be launching my website and my tools where you can book me, everything's been word of mouth this year. So if you'd like to be informed of that, just follow me on Facebook at Ramona Astrid Bernardi. You'll find me, and there I will have all my ability to launch. And then I think that's probably the best way. Let's just do Facebook, and then I will build momentum from there.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on the show today and helping us to understand more about who we really are and the steps that we can take to connect to that.
Thank you so much for having me. I love what you do. I feel your sincerity. So thank you for this beautiful service, Teresa. Your beautiful soul. And I'm so honored.
Thank you.
Mm.
I'm going to leave you with the thought for the day. In a world that wants us to believe that we are either not enough of something or too much of something, that we are weak, bruised, or even broken, how do we return to the truth of who and what we really are? In difficult moments throughout our day, how do we stay connected to our essential self, our higher self? Thinking about the ascended masters like Jesus, Buddha, Confucius, or Mother Mary can remind us of how they navigated the human plane with love and peace. Even when life around them became difficult, the remembrance of their higher self helped them to remain tapped into the vibration of love and offer forgiveness to those who had forgotten who they really are. Painful and challenging things are going to happen to us. So we must take steps on a daily basis to remain connected to our spiritual selves, which is where our happiness resides. The more time we stay tapped into the vortex, as Abraham Hicks likes to call it, the less time we're going to spend upset, angry, anxious, and fearful when life throws us a curveball. By listening to our bodies and checking in on how we feel at any moment, we can use our emotions and gut instinct to direct us to those practices that we know bring us back home to our original nature of love, peace, and happiness. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to being with you again next week.
Connect with Teresa Greco after the show for coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements. You can visit her website at teresagreco.ca or by email at stepstotruehappiness@gmail.com or follow her on Instagram at TeresaGreco_Steps to Happiness or on Facebook at Steps to True Happiness with Teresa Greco.